Hi there, Waltineers. I'm Jack, and this is DSNY Newscast, but not in the studio for today. Instead, I'm here in Glendale, California. Or to be more specific, 1401 Flower Street, which is the headquarters to Walt Disney Imagineering, as I've been invited out for a very special tour, a Magic in the Making tour, along with some other content creators of Walt Disney Imagineering. And so what I'm going to do, I'm going to bring you along for the journey. We're going to understand the Imagineering process, learn more about that, and hopefully uncover some new details along the way. And so, with that being said, let's dive right in. So I've just finished the tour and I'm back here at the hotel, and as promised I want to talk you through everything I saw within Walt Disney Imagineering headquarters. And where I actually want to begin is talking about the fact that here on the channel we discuss a lot about the construction of these park projects, and I try and shine a light on the fact that the themed elements going in and the work that Imagineering do. But being able to walk into Walt Disney Imagineering headquarters, it really was a dream come true moment for me. And being able to walk around and see all of the desks of the Imagineers and where they bring these projects to life, it really is bursting with creativity around every corner. And I was kind of taken aback by the level of craftsmanship that they actually do at Imagineering, because there are a lot of spaces in between where we could film, where they said, you know, phones down, cameras down, but we got to see the desks of the Imagineers, and it just brought it home that the level of craftsmanship and the level of creativity that these Imagineers actually put into these projects. And, you know, they had every single kind of machine that you could possibly need or want to bring Disney park attractions and these projects to life, which I'm guessing is no great surprise there. You'd expect it from Disney and from Imagineering. Being able to see it with my own eyes and walk around there, you really got a sense of the spirit of Imagineering and the creativity and innovation that they have in the headquarters, and how it encourages them to play around with certain technology and certain mechanics and stuff like that to actually make better attractions. So that was a really cool aspect of the tour. And then the other thing is, I feel like we're entering a new era with Walt Disney Imagineering. Obviously we've got a lot of new park projects that are under construction at the moment, but it feels like they're kind of pulling back the curtain more and letting us all take a peek behind the scenes at the Magic in the Making here. And it kind of harkens back to times of old when Walt, with the Wonderful World of Disney, you know, showed us Pirates of the Caribbean with the maquettes of the vignettes for that attraction, or the Haunted Mansion illusioneering effects years before the attraction was built and open. Walt was showing us a look behind the curtain at the process of Imagineering, and hopefully it's going to inspire the next generation of Imagineers to come and build all new worlds within the Disney parks. Now, where it all began is we started off in the model shop, and this is actually one of the areas which I was really hoping we were going to have a look at, and we did. And we walked into the model shop and they had the Lion King model, and they had the 1/25th scale model, which was a huge model. And they also had a model which I think was the same one that was shown at D23 last year when the project was announced, and that was a 1/100th scale model, if I remember correctly there. And the large model is the one that we saw at the annual shareholders meeting with CEO Bob Iger looking at the model. And being able to see this for myself in person and get the camera and go down to the guest eye level and, you know, hopefully show all of you that same perspective, and actually being to look at it from the guest level there within the model, as, you know, guests are going to be able to walk into this land in a few years' time when it's finally built and open. You can really get a sense of the scale and scope that they're going for with this project. It really is on a next level, very much like Pandora, the World of Avatar, or Galaxy's Edge. They're larger than life kind of scale for this project. Pride Rock is going to tower over the land, much as it does in the movie, you know, in that opening establishing shot of Circle of Life when all the animals are walking towards Pride Rock. There's a moment where the bird swoops down and you kind of see Pride Rock up there, and it's going to have that kind of cinematic element to this land. And just seeing the rock work and the scale of this project, in actual fact, it brings me to my next point, which is I actually got to have a chat with Zsolt Hormay, who is the Vice President of Imagineering for the Themed Finishes Art Studio. And what Zsolt and his team oversee are character paint, character facades, rock work, artificial foliage and hardscape, which is basically everything external within the themed lands that you see that kind of bring them to life and make them look otherworldly. So managed to have a chat with Zsolt, and obviously if it's me, you know what I'm like. I'm going to talk about an upcoming project. And the one I wanted to talk to Zsolt about and get his thoughts on was the Piston Peak National Park that they're bringing to Frontierland at Magic Kingdom, and how they're going to make that work within Magic Kingdom.
Going back to Piston Peak, basically, we're trying to create an experience that's based on a rally experience. So you run through the dirt roads and through the national park settings. It's still related basically to the Pixar Cars world that we all know very well. And, just introducing national park type settings and design. We actually call them architecture, park architecture, which was developed actually by the national parks over the years to make sure that whatever they build restrooms or whatever restaurants, it doesn't just stick out like a sore thumb, but it fits into the environment. So we're gonna go down the same route and try to make sure that the guests can really feel like they're up in the Rocky Mountains and going through this rally experience, which should be very, very exciting and very fun to do. Really the challenge is how you fit that in the middle of Magic Kingdom, and we're working on that on a daily basis, and I'm sure we're going to pull it off. It's going to be great.
And so hearing Zsolt talk about this project, coupled with the fact that I've been able to see some of the plans for this Piston Peak National Park area, some artwork that hasn't yet been released and some digital fly-throughs of the land, they really are aiming to try and make this look as authentic as possible to the surroundings and blend it with Frontierland. And like Zsolt was talking about the parkitecture there, they're trying to make it very authentic to the Frontierland area and rustic in a way, but also have that flair of character. So, for an example, it's subtly going to reference automotive design with the geysers that kind of transition to Big Thunder Mountain into the land. They're going to have like tire marks around the outer rim of the geysers, and like the buildings are going to have subtle hints to automotive design, but not so cartoonish, but more authentic and real to a national park environment. And considering that this whole area is drawing inspiration from the national parks, I wanted to ask Zsolt about how he's inspired by nature with his work and his design process.
You should ask my family. When we went on vacation, I stop every 2 miles because you see a rock, a trunk, a tree, anything. So yes, nature is really the source of most of what we apply into our art, right? Whether it's a volcano, whether it's a tree, whether it's, just rock formation, like you mentioned, the Cars land, we wanted to make sure that geologically they are very correct. It's not just kind of, sort of. I mean, we do a lot of study. We study up on geology, the different types of rocks, how they being created. When we created Mount Prometheus and, the Tokyo Disney Sea, we had to understand the different lava types. So it's not just one thing that looks like lava. We actually specifically created the different types of lava, so it's recognizable for somebody who actually knows, scientifically, what they were. So yeah, there's a lot of study that goes into that. It's not just really, we just go and kind of sculpt this and that or paint, you really have to be pretty focused and pretty knowledgeable about what you do.
The next stop on the tour was the Blaine Gibson Sculpture Studio. And this is actually a room which we've seen quite a few times in stuff like the Imagineering story. It was filled with all these sculptures and busts of characters and actors and historical figures. It had the presidents in there, and it was just absolutely incredible to be able to get to the eye level with so many of these sculptures, and how Imagineering and the Disney legend Blaine Gibson, who began all of that work with the Disney parks and, Pirates of the Caribbean and all that sort of work with Walt all those years ago, and how that's continued as a process throughout Imagineering. And they still do it the same way, which is they do it by hand. They do a lot of these sculpting by hand, especially for the presidents. They can't do like a LiDAR scan of the face or anything like that. They have to do it kind of by hand. So that whole process has continued and been passed down from generation to generation within Imagineering. Very cool to see that up close and in person. Then after that, the next big part of Imagineering is sound design, and we actually went into Studio C, which is named after Circle Vision, which is obviously the old attractions that they used to make within the parks, 360 films, and this is what this room was originally designed for, is to build Circle Vision films. But now it's used as an audio design lab, and this was a very cool aspect of the tour, which I don't think anyone of us on the tour will be able to translate very well to video, because we've only got stereo speakers here on this video, and this sound studio wasn't just using 5.1 surround sound around the room. It was using over 70 speakers located around the room, and by doing that they had something called wavefield synthesis technology, and it basically meant that instead of panning the sound between stereo speakers or 5.1, they could actually design the sound in three-dimensional space and spatial audio like that. And it was a unique experience being able to hear it like that. It was probably the best surround sound I'll ever hear. But they were managing to create this spatial sound from speakers 20 feet away, but yet they had the Ghost Host spiel from Haunted Mansion playing like it was whispering into your ear within this sound lab. And I won't be able to show you easily on video, but you just have to take my word for it. They designed the attractions in this space so they can make sure that every single aspect of the ambience of an attraction, the sound effects, the soundtrack of these rides is pitch perfect for where you are located within the rides, and so therefore they're eliciting the feeling that they want you to feel from hearing that sound on the attraction. And then the next stop on the tour was the animatronics building, and this is also another stop which I really wanted to see. And this is where we saw all the desks of the Imagineers and the workstations and the workshop. It's a real living workshop around there. And we got to see some A1000 figures, the mechanical aspect of the A1000 figures, and how they've transitioned from hydraulics with A100 figures to now the A1000 figures, which are all electric motors within these figures themselves. And we also saw the shaman from the Nave River Shaman attraction, the head from that animatronic figure that we saw within the Imagineering story, and they showed us it moving. And this is still the most technically advanced head that they've ever made for an animatronic. Because it is such a large head, it can contain 42 different movements within the head, whereas a normal human figure can only usually have around 12 movements within the actual head itself. So very interesting to see that. And then also we got to see some of the skin texturing for the animatronics, the skin they put over the animatronics, and get to touch some of it, and it was oddly not as plasticky or rubbery as I thought it was going to be. It was a bit more clammy in a weird way and kind of sticky than the actual skin texturing you thought it would be. And the other thing I asked about here is the design of the animatronics, and they design all of the animatronics in-house, and they also assemble them all in-house. Now they work with outside vendors to produce the actual mechanics for the animatronics, but they are all brought back to Imagineering headquarters and all get assembled and programmed at Imagineering. So they all kind of make their journey throughout Imagineering headquarters at Glendale at some point in their lifespan of the animatronic. And then another really big part of the Imagineering process is obviously the ride vehicles and the ride systems that we all sit in for these attractions. And speaking of that, we didn't walk through this part of the Imagineering campus, but I managed to have an interview and a chat with Dave Crawford, who is the Creative Ride Engineering Executive at Walt Disney Imagineering and oversees the collaborative initiative between the ride engineering and also the Blue Sky Studio focused on the development of new innovative ride systems. And so in my chat with Dave, I wanted to talk to him about the inspiration behind selecting a certain ride system for an attraction, the process of actually selecting that. So that's this question here.
I feel like a lot of us, viewers out there as well, watch the movies and we kind of see, a mine car or something like that, and we think, well, that would make a great ride.
Yeah.
But you guys will make that into a ride. So does it come from movies or does it begin with, the actual ride system itself?
Both and all. I mean, no one can watch Monsters without seeing the door coaster and saying,
Right.
I want to ride that. And it's great that we're finally building that ride. It's really exciting to do that. There's great inspiration from all of the Disney movies and intellectual property. There's a lot of internal, creative directors that are just amazing at designing and developing these experiences that are so aspirational, like climbing Everest or going to Mars or other things that, normal people just can't do in their daily life. So we like, whether it's fantasy or reality, doing things that people just, wouldn't have the opportunity to ever do except out, within a Disney park is exciting.
When you re-ride the attractions now, do you sometimes ride them back and go, if only I'd have just tweaked this one little thing? Are there lots, like, does the creative process, because obviously Walt often said he didn't like to put films in the can, because he always wanted to continue to tweak it. Is it the same way for Imagineers with your attractions?
For me personally, it's not. I mean, there are always things that, I'd love to do better, I'd love to do more of, but when we kind of have that final product and it's in the park, I kind of put my mental, it's done and it is the best that I could possibly have done. And I love it for what it is. It's
going to stand the test of time as it is.
Yeah.
And the other big aspect of innovative ride design is patenting technology that goes into it. And Dave has 60 patents to his name. And so I wanted to get his thoughts on the Disney patents and how they go about patenting certain technology for the Disney attractions.
Disney fans out there probably see patents all the time coming out of Disney research labs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And just wondering, when it comes to patenting new inventions, is it a lot of tinkering around with something and going, oh, well, this would be great for an attraction? Or is it like more, we're going to go for this direction and then we start tinkering around with that?
I'm generally inspired by having a direction. Someone needs something that's never been done before, and I like the tinkering towards a solution to that. As any development or inventive organization will know, you have to develop and invent a lot of things for the few that actually work, and it's their time to go in and be productized. So yeah, there's lots of patents and ideas and past concepts. A small segment of them have made it in front of our guests, and those are the ones that I'm really excited and proud about.
I looked through some of these patents, and there are diagrams in there which allude to a certain IP or something like that. Do you guys put that in there as Easter eggs for people to hopefully discover? Like the one I'm thinking of is the lightsaber patent, quite a few years back. And obviously it got a lot of press online.
Sure.
There's been ones in the past about like a Spider-Man-esque roller coaster kind of thing. There's like swinging arm roller coaster. And so there's been many different patents in the past. I'm just wondering if you guys try and push us in that direction or not.
We actually try not to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So we read too much into it.
Typically, when a lot of that invention is going on, there's not even a targeted IP. So it's an engineer or a creative lead that's thinking about something specific, and they may let some of that sneak in, but we try not to create the commotion and the controversy online of where's it going to go and when. Something like the lightsaber is obvious, right? There's not a lot of laser swords out there.
And then the last stop on the tour was Disney Research and Development Lab, the R&D lab. And, in many ways, Imagineering isn't just about theme parks and, cruise lines and all the other design that they do. It's also, in many ways, a tech startup. And they develop a lot of new technology within Imagineering that only gets used within the parks. It's bespoke and unique to Disney for the parks, for the kind of entertainment they're delivering. And as part of this, we got to meet Imagineer Lanny Smoot, who's actually the first Imagineer ever to be inducted into the National Inventors Hall of Fame. As there's one other employee at the Walt Disney Company who is in the National Inventors Hall of Fame, and that's Walt Disney. So amongst, very rare company there. And so we got to meet Lanny Smoot, and he was on the holotile surface, which you've probably seen in numerous videos up until this point. And we got a demonstration of the holotile technology, and it was described as the world's only multi-user expandable modular omnidirectional floor, which, to put that into normal speak, because obviously that is very technical jargon, basically how I describe it is it functioned like a treadmill that worked in all directions. So it's like a 360-degree treadmill. And as you step, the hollow tile floor kind of undoes your step. So it kind of, as you step in one direction, it kind of pushes you back towards the center of the hollow tile. And the reason why this is such like a breakthrough technology is because it means that Disney can put a VR headset on, the Imagineers can, and they can walk the lands, the attractions, the spaces as much as they want without being limited to a physical space. And it means that then they can spend a lot of time in that physical space before they even put the first shovel in the ground. They can get the design as pinpoint as possible. So it's a big part of the process, and in many ways it's kind of the spiritual successor to the dish technology, which we saw within the Imagineering story. I think it was kind of similar to, like, you know how you see Mirabel in Canto, like sliding around on the floors. Kind of similar to that in a way. It'll be interesting to see if they ever use this hollow tile technology as a ride system within an attraction. But at the moment, at least, it seems like they're just using it for developmental purposes within Imagineering and going through the process there. And within the R&D lab, we also got to see the lightsaber technology. You know, the patent that I did a video on years ago about how, you know, the retractable lightsaber, the most ultra-realistic lightsaber they've ever made. We got to hold that and ignite it, and it's the one from the Galactic Star Cruiser, and that was a very cool moment. It's apparently worth roughly around $50,000, so it's not a consumer product by any means, but it's their most hyper-realistic one yet, and I'm guessing at some point, if they can scale it correctly and, you know, develop it in the future, we might see the same technology come to a consumer product. But at the moment, it is like the most hyper-realistic show prop that they've got for a lightsaber, and it was incredibly realistic to actually hold that lightsaber. And then the last thing we saw within R&D was the BDX droids. Now, you've seen a lot of these BDX droids, and you may have seen them in the parks, but to actually be able to see them in person, first time I've ever seen them in person. And number one, they're very full of character, and it's kind of magical in a way that they bring these kind of characters to life in that way. But this is the bipedal technology, which I previously covered with the Groot animatronic. Remember all those years back with the walking Groot animatronic that was tethered? They've taken that technology, the bipedal robotics that they've worked on here, and they've iterated upon it, and along with the Zurich research team, the branch of Disney R&D in Zurich, they did AI simulation tests on these droids, and it made it so therefore they've got to the stage where they can now walk around without any sort of tether on these droids. The droids themselves weigh roughly around 30 to 35 pounds. But I said, could this be scaled up in terms of other characters? And the Imagineer said that, you know, there's no reason why they can't do it. It's just a matter of torque, you know, the weight distribution, the level of, you know, the mechanics of the movement and stuff like that. But the core technology is there, the bipedal robotics. And they even let us all hold the controller and control these BDX droids. And incredibly easy to do. And amazing how it can just walk around it wasn't limited within a certain area. It could just walk around and interact with people. It was incredible, and I can't wait to see what this technology is going to bring to the parks in the future. I'm thinking four-legged characters like Bambi or Simba, or, you know, smaller characters like Pinocchio. Could they bring Pinocchio to life in the future? It's going to be amazing to see what they do with this bipedal robotics and making characters that are true to scale of what they are in the content where you see them. So that will be very interesting to keep an eye out on. Now, the last thing I want to talk about in this video is obviously walking through Imagineering. You kind of get a sense of the next generation of Imagineers. And so I asked both Dave and Zsolt about their advice for someone out there who's watching this video right now who wants to have a career working in Imagineering, how they would go about doing that. And so this is Dave and Zsolt giving advice for anyone who aspires to become an Imagineer.
I grew up in Hungary, and there was no Disney park in Hungary. So, there's no, particularly, well, in Europe some, but in Hungary when I was growing up, you know, we had really no concept of what a theme park is, or the industry that creates theme parks or attractions. So this was kind of a surprise when I came to United States and started working, and, you know, basically by serendipity ended up in this field being an artist and learned the trade. And that's how I kind of got into the business and just created the career out of it. You have to have, you asked me about nature before. I think you have to have a lot of enthusiasm about learning about, you know, what you think you might be creating, and really take the extra mile and just dive into subject matters educate yourself, practice with a piece of little foam or clay or a piece of paper or whatever. Just try to train yourself and your mind how you would convey something if you were working for Imagineering. And that should probably at least get the first steps in place. And hopefully, your dream will come true.
Yeah, it's interesting. I wanted to be an engineer since as far back as I can remember. And I'm sure some of that is tied into my dad being a mechanical engineer that worked for IBM in the early days of developing disk drives and computer systems. And it just kind of sank in, irrespective of me even knowing what an engineer was or did. And so I kind of entered college, very confident, and I'm going to be an engineer. Started studying the theory, and honestly, it didn't totally connect with me. I wasn't super excited about where I was going, what I was doing, didn't know where I'd land. And it wasn't until almost my senior year that I literally stumbled into entertainment as an application of engineering that really got me excited. And originally wanted to go into movie special effects, but Pixar came on the scene.
Well, in many ways, I mean, Imagineering is kind of like movie special effects in real life. You do a lot of the same.
It's even better.
It's
even better because these special effects last for decades. You design them with this rigor for durability and reliability and safety, and then they go out there and make people happy for 20, 30, 40 years. Entertainment is a wonderful, exciting, really chaotic industry for engineers to work in, and I highly recommend it. You have to let the creative process drive it. A lot of industries that utilize engineers, engineers are the decision makers. They are, and the products take the most efficient form for the job they do. So an oil rig looks like an oil rig because that's the most efficient form. An airplane wing, you can't get too creative with. Entertainment's totally different. The form is defined and you have to fit the function inside of it. And so there's a little bit of letting go you have to do as an engineer that's kind of hard for your more traditionally trained engineers to do, to say, I'm gonna do this in a very different way, in a very unique way that's maybe not the most efficient or the most optimized solution. You have to get comfortable with coming at it from every direction, iterating through failure. I mean, failure is part of the process. When you're doing something no one's ever done before, things aren't always going to work out. You have to be okay with that. And there's also something about being passionate and excited about everything you're doing, but being able to let go of it easily and move on to the next thing. And
go build the next mountain, in a way. Or
build the next mountain, the next roller coaster. Yeah.
That's great. Thank you, Dave.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed it.
And so that's everything from the Walt Disney Imagineering tour. Like I said at the start, it was a once-in-a-lifetime experience, truly a dream come true. And I just want to say thank you to everyone who watches these videos, because I've been doing this now for 8 years, and to finally be able to walk into Imagineering, it was incredible. And I hope I've done you all justice in terms of, giving you an insight to Imagineering. So with that being said, it's over to you, Waltineers, as I would like to know, what are your thoughts and opinions on the areas where you would like to work at Imagineering? What do you think you could offer to Imagineering in terms of which section? Is it models? Is it ride engineering? Is it sound design? Which area would you be drawn to? And what would you like to bring to life within the Disney parks if you could work at Imagineering? And of course, be sure to subscribe down below, hit the notification bell, and check out the rest of our videos on this channel. And also a massive thank you to the official Waltineer Club over on Patreon for always supporting this channel, and also a massive shout out to the official Waltineer Gold members that you can see here on the screen, as well as Waltineer Diamond members JC Russell, Justin Tupper, Tim Parsons and Clive Simmons. And with that being said for today, I've been Jack, you've been you, and I'll see you real soon.